Have you ever wondered why your kindness is met not with gratitude, but with contempt? Why the warmth you offer is returned with a cold glance, or worse, a subtle, simmering disdain? In the mirror of another's eyes, your compassion transforms into something grotesque. You are the giver, yet somehow, you are the one they cannot stand. It doesn't make sense until you understand the ancient, unseen mechanisms of the human psyche. Kindness, when uninvited, acts as a mirror to those who have not yet made peace with themselves. In Jungian thought, the shadow, that repressed, hidden self, becomes agitated when exposed. When you bring light, not everyone is grateful. Some flinch. Some retaliate. Because your very presence, your gentle decency, threatens the fragile scaffolding of another's unacknowledged wounds. You become the silhouette of what they refuse to be, what they believe they cannot be, and what they secretly hate themselves for not being. To be kind is to hold a torch in a cave. And when that flame dances too close to another's shadow, it stirs the beast within. This beast does not roar in gratitude. It bares its teeth. Why? Because in your kindness, there is judgment. Not intentional, but implicit. You expose the lack within them. You unveil the compassion they never received, or never learned to give. And this dissonance, this psychic disalignment, breeds resentment. Carl Jung understood that people do not see the world as it is. They see it as they are. And when your warmth meets the frozen core of someone else's unresolved trauma, it does not thaw them, it enrages them. They feel naked before you, though you said nothing. Though you offered only a smile, a helping hand, a gentle tone to them, it is a threat. Because now, the masks they wear begin to crack. What they hate is not truly you. What they hate is the shame you awaken. The silent indictment that echoes in their soul. You become a symbol of their inadequacy, of their unloved past, of their deeply buried self-loathing. And the more unconditionally kind you are, the deeper the blade twists. This is the paradox of light, it both reveals and blinds. Have you ever offered help only to be met with scorn? Or given loyalty, only to be betrayed? This is not chaos. This is archetypal. The innocent, the caregiver, the altruist, all are threatened by the wounded shadow in others. And when the wounded cannot or will not face their suffering, they project it. You, the kind one, become the scapegoat. The one they can hate without guilt. Because if you're so nice, surely you're faking it. Surely you want something. Surely you're weak, naive, manipulative. And so begins the projection. What Jung called the great lie of the ego, it is not me, it is you. Your compassion becomes their target. Your forgiveness, an insult. Your presence, unbearable. They punish your light because they have lived too long in darkness. And they would rather extinguish you than face the cavern inside themselves. But what if you stopped expecting their gratitude? What if you let go of the fantasy that kindness would buy you love, or safety, or belonging? That is not its purpose. Kindness is not a transaction. It is a revelation. And it will cost you. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be real. And being real means embracing that your goodness will sometimes provoke hatred, your softness will summon hard responses, and your light will be seen as an act of violence to the eyes unaccustomed to clarity. So what do? You see through it. You recognize the truth behind the mask. That the venom is pain. That the dismissal is fear. That their hate is not your burden, but their mirror cracking under pressure. Do not dim your light. Let them avert their eyes if they must. Let them shrink into themselves. Let them hate, if that is what they choose. Because their hate says more about their wounds than your worth. You are not the villain in their story. You are the trigger. And every trigger points to a deeper wound. Jung taught that the path to wholeness is through the shadow. But most people run from it. And when you remind them even silently that they are still running, they will call you cruel. They will call you fake. They will call you manipulative. But do not make the mistake of believing them. You are not responsible for their healing. You are only responsible for not betraying your own soul in pursuit of their approval. And so, the tragedy unfolds not in your actions, but in their perceptions. The gentle hand you extend becomes, to their subconscious, the whip of past humiliation. The smile you wear reminds them of smiles that lied. The words you speak with kindness may echo too closely to words once wielded as weapons. You cannot predict which thread of their inner labyrinth you'll pull when you merely show up as yourself. But make no mistake, you will pull something. The psyche, especially the wounded one, is a fortress surrounded by illusions. When you are kind without demand, when you radiate peace without agenda, you expose every false wall they've built. The ego, whose purpose is to protect a fragmented soul, cannot allow such raw confrontation. And so it wages war not on the truth, but on the one who bears it. On you. Jung's wisdom speaks softly but powerfully. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Yet the reverse is equally true. Everything about you that awakens their irritation is not you, but them. They do not hate the act of kindness. They hate the reminder that they do not feel worthy of it. Imagine this: a soul who has only known love as manipulation now meets you steady, sincere, asking for nothing in return. Their nervous system, trained by betrayal, recoils. Their mind whispers, "This is a trap." Because to believe you are real, they would have to admit that their entire model of the world is false. And that is too much to bear. You see, kindness is only healing to those ready to be healed. To everyone else, it is disruptive. It threatens the narrative they've stitched into their identity. Trauma has taught them to survive through skepticism, through walls, through blame. So when your light pours in, they don't bathe in it. They panic. This is not a flaw in you. This is a sacred fire at work. Every soul must face its own crucible. You cannot save those who are addicted to their suffering. You cannot drag someone to the river of self-worth and expect them to drink when they've convinced themselves they deserve to thirst. Even still, the ego in you aches. Because you don't understand why they're pulling away. Why they speak ill behind your back. Why you feel punished for being kind. That ache, that wounded ache, is the part of you still waiting for your own shadow to be met. The part of you that gives in order to feel safe. To feel accepted. That kindness, so pure on the surface, has hooks buried within it. Hooks that say, "Please love me. Please don't hurt me." And when that plea is ignored, when your love is rejected, your pain is not just about them. It is about your younger self, the child within, who learned that to be good is to be safe, and now stands stunned before the truth that goodness is no shield. That sometimes, it's a magnet for arrows. Jung did not ask us to be invulnerable. He asked us to be whole. To bring both light and darkness into integration. So you must ask yourself, are you kind because you are kind, or because you are terrified of being unkind? Are you generous because your heart overflows, or because you fear abandonment? This is the razor's edge. To truly walk the path of the individuated soul, you must offer your heart without expectation. Without seeking reward. Without bending to their reaction. You must learn to be the quiet storm, unmoved by praise, unbroken by rejection. Because until you can stand in your truth, fierce and soft, giving and self-contained, you will remain hostage to the world's applause or its condemnation. And here's the truth that burns and purifies: sometimes, people hate you because you represent a version of themselves they're not ready to confront. They see in you the choices they didn't make, the courage they abandoned, the love they never believed they deserved. And so they resent you. They resent your peace. Your decency. Your quiet strength. But that resentment is not your burden. It is their invitation. Whether they accept it is not your responsibility. Your only task is to stay rooted in your essence. To know, deeply and unwaveringly, that your kindness is not a weakness, it is a testament to your strength. Do not harden your heart. That is not the answer. Let it remain soft, but not naive. Let it remain open, but not empty. Let it remain generous, but no longer starving for validation. There comes a moment in the quiet of your soul when you realize, it was never about fairness. The universe does not grant immunity to pain just because you mean well. Kindness, real kindness, not performance, not appeasement, is a form of rebellion. It confronts the bitterness of the world without flinching. But it also demands that you release the illusion that your virtue will protect you from harm. When you are kind and hated for it, you're witnessing a sacred law at play, the law of psychic resistance. The ego, when threatened by authenticity, retaliates. And your authenticity, your open-heartedness, your unwillingness to play by the cold rules of transaction, becomes a threat to the brittle scaffolding of another's constructed identity. They do not hate you. They hate what you awaken. Have you not seen it? The way they squirm under your gaze when you offer help without superiority? The way they turn sarcastic when you show compassion, as if you must be a fool or a fraud? They cannot hold your gaze, because they cannot yet hold their own reflection. Carl Jung knew this terrain well. The soul exiles what it cannot integrate. And when you come into contact with those fragments, you are seen not as a friend, but as an invader. The shadow does not welcome disruption. It bites. And still you ache, don't you? Because some part of you hoped, quietly, desperately, that love could earn love. That if you showed them what acceptance looked like, they would mirror it back. But they cannot give what they do not possess. They cannot offer what they have never given to themselves. There is a cruel irony here. The deeper your self-awareness grows, the lonelier your path can become. The more compassion you cultivate, the more you see how compassion is often met with suspicion. Because in a fractured world, wholeness looks alien. In a cynical world, sincerity feels like a trick. And so you must endure the projections, the accusations, the dismissals. You, the gentle one, become the canvas for their unhealed rage. The place they cast their envy. The scapegoat for their shame. But here is where the alchemy begins, when you no longer take it personally. When you stop shrinking, stop twisting, stop apologizing for the way your soul refuses to betray itself. To be kind and free is to enter a rarefied space. It is to become untouchable, not because you are above pain, but because you are rooted in something far deeper than the need to be liked. You do not give to earn. You do not love to be praised. You do not soothe others at the cost of betraying your own truth. And when they recoil, when they lash out, when they whisper behind your back, you stay. Still. Anchored. Unmoved. This is what Jung called individuation, the integration of your true self, free from the masks demanded by society. It is the sacred reclamation of your soul from the hands of others. You no longer perform goodness. You embody it. But it will cost you. Make no mistake. The world often confuses real goodness with weakness. They expect you to be passive, spineless, ever smiling. But true kindness is forged in fire. It is a sword, not a feather. It does not bend to please. It stands tall in the face of contempt. It forgives without forgetting. Because you see them now, don't you? Those who hate you. You see past the venom and into their emptiness. You see the unmet child, still curled within their adult frame, still screaming for safety, for love, for dignity. And instead of fighting back, you step aside. Not to concede, but to transcend. Because the truth is, you no longer need to be understood. You do not beg for recognition. You do not chase belonging in places that require you to diminish. The most radical act of all is this: to keep your heart open in a world that tries to close it. To remain kind, not out of fear, but from strength. To walk into rooms where love is mocked, and still embody love. You may be hated. You may be misread, betrayed, cast out. But in that exile, you will find something sacred. Yourself. Not the mask you wore to survive. Not the persona you shaped to be accepted. But the deep, steady flame of your authentic being. The one who no longer explains. The one who no longer apologizes for the way they love. The one who no longer carries the weight of others' brokenness. But even as you reach this threshold of self-reclamation, shadows will still whisper. The old voices, internalized from years of seeking to please, will rise up like ghosts. Maybe you were too much. Maybe you were too kind. Maybe you should have been colder, smarter, more strategic. Maybe then they would have stayed. Maybe then they would have loved you back. This is the last illusion, that you must change your essence to be worthy of peace. That you must contort to avoid rejection. But rejection, in truth, is not the enemy. Rejection is the crucible through which integrity is tested. And many will reject what they do not understand, what they are not ready to meet within themselves. You are not here to be understood by all. You are here to become whole. Do you know what that means? It means you do not betray your gentleness in order to earn survival. You do not weaponize your warmth to gain approval. You stop turning your soul into a currency. You offer kindness because it is who you are, not because you hope it will finally make them stay. This is where the work deepens. You begin to unravel the threads that once tied your self-worth to their response. You stop taking their hate as a referendum on your value. You no longer bend your light to fit into their shadows. Instead, you face the ache. You sit with it. You watch it transform. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that darkness includes the part of you that was terrified to be disliked. The part that believed being good meant being loved. The part that feared exile more than self-abandonment. But you are no longer that child. You do not need to prove your purity. You do not need to earn a place in hearts that cannot hold your truth. You do not need to be palatable to be real. Let them turn away. Let them spit their venom. Let them call your strength weakness, your heart a manipulation, your presence a problem. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the war within them. A war between who they are and who they were told to be. A war between their buried tenderness and their hardened defenses. A war they are not yet ready to win. And so, in your presence, they flinch. They resist. They project. Because you remind them of the self they locked away. You threaten the equilibrium of their numbness. You stir the soul they've tried so hard to silence. You were never their enemy. But when someone is drowning, the one who tries to save them can feel like the deepest threat. Do not drown with them. Do not pull your light back into the sea of unconsciousness just to make them comfortable. Your task is not to be accepted, your task is to be true. And what is true is this: some will hate you because you are kind. Because you do not play by the rules of the broken. Because you do not join them in their cynicism, their cruelty, their coldness. You hold a mirror they cannot bear to see. But that mirror is sacred. That mirror is necessary. And if you can bear the solitude it sometimes brings, you will find something far more valuable than approval. You will find freedom. You will no longer crave the validation of those who cannot validate themselves. You will no longer try to rescue those who are committed to their own suffering. You will no longer bleed to prove that you are soft. You will be both, the velvet and the steel. The storm and the stillness. The fire and the calm. This is the archetype of the wounded healer, the one who has transmuted their own pain into wisdom, and now walks the world untouched by its projections. Not because they are invulnerable, but because they are rooted. Integrated. Awake. So do not confuse rejection with failure. Do not confuse hatred with your unworthiness. These are merely the echoes of transformation. The tremors of your light unsettling the false structures around you. Let them fall. Let the ashes scatter. Let what is not real be burned away. What remains is unshakable. What remains is you. And in that stillness, in the ashes of who you thought you needed to be, you will hear it, the voice that was buried beneath all the pleasing, all the proving, all the hoping they'd see you. It is not loud. It does not beg. It does not convince. It simply is. Unshaken. Timeless. This voice says, you are whole, even when unloved by them. It says, you are enough, even when misunderstood. It whispers, you are free now, because you stopped needing them to get it. This is what the world never taught you, that love rooted in performance is not love. That kindness used as currency will bankrupt your soul. That martyrdom masquerading as virtue is merely another name for fear. You were not born to beg for crumbs of affection from those still starving inside. You were not made to be a mirror for people who refuse to look at themselves. You are not a balm for every wounded ego that crosses your path. You are a storm of truth cloaked in softness. A quiet revolution. The living proof that light can be fierce, and kindness can be sovereign. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call your grace manipulation. Let them say you were too much. Too soft. Too open. Too honest. Their judgment is the language of their own limitations. Do not shrink to fit inside it. In a world obsessed with control and power, to be kind without agenda is radical. To love without needing is dangerous. To show up without masks is threatening. Not everyone will celebrate your presence. But you did not come here to be celebrated. You came here to remember who you are. This remembering is the deepest work. It is shadow work. It is breaking the chains of your ancestral wounds, the generational patterns of self-erasure. It is standing tall even as they cast stones of contempt and whisper about your intentions behind closed doors. You do not explain. You do not defend. You simply remain. There is a line you cross, quietly, when you step into true wholeness. It is invisible, but irreversible. After that point, no rejection can undo you. No hatred can unmake you. Because you have seen your own depths and found that you are not fragile. You are fire. And this is the final terror to those who hate you for your kindness, that you are unshatterable. That their coldness cannot convert you. That their silence cannot erase you. That you do not need their love in order to love yourself. So they hate. Because it is all they have left. But hatred is a brittle thing. It does not endure. It feeds on illusion and starves in the presence of authenticity. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop proving, it begins to wither. And then, silence. Not empty silence, but sacred. You no longer seek out the ones who walked away. You no longer ache when you are blamed for what you did not cause. You no longer take it upon yourself to fix their perception. You are free. Not because they changed, but because you stopped needing them to. In that freedom, something new awakens, a peace not built on external harmony, but on inner alignment. You begin to choose not just kindness, but boundaries. Not just compassion, but clarity. You learn to walk away without guilt. To say no without apology. To protect your light without shame. This is the final metamorphosis. The union of shadow and self. The death of the pleaser. The birth of the sovereign. You do not ask, why do they hate me? You ask instead, what in me still needed them to love me? And when the answer dissolves, you rise. Quietly. Steadily. Like something ancient remembering its name. No longer fragmented. No longer performing. No longer afraid. Only whole. Only true. Only free. Now the world looks different, doesn't it? Not because it changed, but because you did. Where once you sought safety in being pleasing, now you walk with the quiet power of one who needs no approval. You've made peace with the hatred of others because you understand its root and it is not in you. You've peeled away the layers of illusion, the idea that being good guarantees love, that kindness ensures loyalty, that authenticity protects you from pain. You've seen that even the most open-hearted soul can be vilified. That purity can be mocked. That truth, untempered by performance, often stands alone. And yet, you no longer grieve this aloneness. You wear it like a crown. Because now you know the hatred of others is not your enemy. It is your signal. It tells you that you've stopped living in falsehoods. It shows you where your soul refuses to conform. It invites you to stand deeper in your essence, even as the world recoils. You are no longer a mirror for their denial. You are a beacon for those who dare to see. There is no resentment left. Only clarity. You see their projections for what they are: flares from a sinking ship, cries from the cavern of unacknowledged pain. You do not take it personally because you see how deeply personal their suffering is, how long they've gone unloved, even by themselves. Their hatred is a tragedy, not a condemnation. And your kindness? It is no longer the soft surrender of a soul seeking approval. It is now the firm hand of someone who has walked through their own shadows and come out forged in truth. You do not cower. You do not cling. You do not overgive. You offer what you choose, and nothing more. You become the rarest thing of all, a soul untethered from the need to be liked. This terrifies the world. Because if you cannot be guilt, manipulated, shamed, or flattered, what power do they hold over you? None. You do not offer yourself as a sacrifice on the altar of acceptance anymore. You do not contort to be palatable. You do not hand your light to those who would only try to dim it. You shine not for their comfort, but for your own liberation. And in that light, you begin to attract something different. Souls who are not threatened by your truth, but drawn to it. Beings who are not confused by your softness, but anchored by it. People who see your kindness not as weakness, but as sacred power. The ones who once hated you fall away. They dissolve like mist under the sun. They were never your tribe. They were never your mirrors. They were only tests, sacred initiations into your own becoming. You thank them silently. For pushing you into solitude. For forcing you to meet the parts of yourself you had long abandoned. For breaking the illusion that love must be earned. They gave you the wound. You gave yourself the healing. And now you stand, not above them, but beyond the reach of their projections. Not harder, but deeper. Not crueler, but clearer. You are no longer available for false connection. You are no longer available for love that comes with chains. You are no longer available for the role of the sacrificial saint, the misunderstood giver, the emotional dumping ground. You are whole. You are sovereign. You are light with roots. So when you are kind and hated for it, you smile, not in bitterness, but in understanding. Because now you know the truth. They hate not you, but the mirror of who they could become. And you? You keep walking. Not to escape, but to rise. Unbothered. Unshaken. Unapologetically free. And that is the true power of a kind soul who no longer needs to be loved.